President's Palm Beach golf course. And steps from the White House where members of Congress joined.
To Donald Trump, I say, get your off the golf course and face the people. America first. It's Trump first.
Frustration even stretched across the pond in Paris, Lisbon, and London.
We really want to send a message of solidarity to our friends and families back in America.
Overall, these were peaceful protests with very few arrests. In response, the White House said the president will always protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. That's despite job cuts recently to some of the agencies that handle those benefits. Tony?
All right, Nicole, got it. Thank you very much.
Of thousands of Americans, hundreds of thousands of Americans have joined nationwide protests against President Donald Trump's trade tariffs and the radical shakeup of U.S. politics driven by his administration. Hands-off rallies have been held in all 50 states. There's growing public anger at Trump's policies as well as Elon Musk's cost-cutting campaign.
It was the largest single day of protesters since President Donald Trump returned to office in January. Under the banner Hands Off, opponents of Trump's policies rallied, from critics of his economic policies to those concerned about civil rights, to climate activists in towns and cities in all 50 states, from New York's Fifth Avenue.
I feel horrible. Immigrants are getting deported. The president's so worried about 0.1% of the population, transgender people, but he doesn't care about the economy, he doesn't talk about lowering prices, inflation.
To Charlotte, North Carolina.
I'm here today as a person with a disability to stand up for all the 70 million people in America who receive disability, who receive Medicaid or Medicare. They are important. Their voice is important.
In Houston, Texas, people came out in defiance of a tornado warning.
I'm here today to say hands off of our democracy, hands off of our rights, hands off of our futures. I was a little afraid today that the weather might scare people from coming out, but I was so delighted to see that everyone braved the rainy weather and came out to fight for our democracy.
In the capital, Washington, D.C., demonstrators congregated on the National Mall.
We object to the everything that Donald Trump is doing, basically in terms of his power grab and all the damage he's doing to the economy and to democracy.
In a nation as divided as the United States, the hands-off organizers managed to bring together a wide range of those unhappy with the government, from civil rights organizations to army veterans, to LGBTQ groups, to climate activists. They all had one message for the man in the Oval Office.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
For more, let's speak now to William Glucroft, who's a U.S. analyst and the deputy editor.
Well, according to the organizers themselves, this was a one-day protest for April 5th. So at least for now, it seems like kind of just a cathartic expression, one-off kind of thing. These things do have a way of taking off and sort of snowballing into larger events. We saw in the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020, for example, that rocked the United States across the country in many different sort of settings and contexts for that entire summer. To what extent or to what the long-term sort of consequences of that was, I think, that's quite unclear. But right now, this was sort of a one-off thing, and I can't help but note the timing of this, that, the things that these protesters are calling out have been going on now, not just for the weeks of the Trump's second term, but really through the course of, modern U.S. history. But it only comes to a fruition now in the days after Donald Trump's announcement on tariffs basically tanked the global economy with a very uncertain future for everybody. So the timing for me here is quite notable.
We are not hearing much public pushback from Trump's own party. How likely is it the demands of the protesters will resonate with right-leaning constituents who were never enamored with Trump but believed he was a far better choice than the Democrats?
It's depends on the messaging, right? It depends on what Democrats are going to do, if anything, to sort of paint a different vision, an alternative, another future other than what Donald Trump is offering. Because remember, the reason or a reason that the Democrats lost so handily is not because Donald Trump is so great. He's actually quite an unfavorable president across the board. It's because Democrats are hated even more because they're seen as out of touch with most Americans, not providing a future that people want to be part of, defending status quo that's not working for a lot of people, and Donald Trump, whether it's for good, bad, or otherwise, is providing an idea of something else. Now, that's very destructive something else. It's a something else that doesn't come with a day after plan, but nonetheless, it's something else. And when people are this desperate for some kind of change, where they see the massive inequality happening across the United States and has been for decades, this is not a Donald Trump product, we have to remember. This is decades of presidents, Republicans, Democrats alike, saying that the government is bad and we have to let markets sort of find our way through this. Then you're left with what Donald Trump is offering and not something that many people might want to jump in on and be part of. So it really depends on what the response is going to be now. Based on what I've read and what I've experienced, it's mostly Americans living abroad, especially Democrats living abroad. I don't see a lot of Europeans. I mean, they're protesting and aghast in other ways, but of course, there's plenty of democracy rollback in European countries. Seeing Hungary step out of the International Criminal Court, Germany looking to deport EU citizens for their own political beliefs. There's plenty to worry about in Europe without having to get into U.S. politics.
And so William